everyone. Today we got to play the Mystery House. So it was kind of for Halloween, but so we had a lot of fun playing this. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are awesome and you want to know all about them. Randy, tell us more about this particular game.
This was released in 2019. It's currently got a Board Game Geek rating of 6.3 and a rank of 4,865. It was designed by Antonio Tinto, art by Daniela Giobellini and Alessandro Paviolo. Published by Cranio Creations, same people who did Lorenzo Il Magnifico.
I love Lorenzo, guys. We haven't reviewed it yet.
Yeah, this is
good.
Supposedly a 1 to 5 player game. It's really geared for up to 4 because there's 4 sides to the box. You can have a 5th if you have one person that's kind of the app person, but it's really for 1 to 4, I would think. It's 60 minutes in length, but that's kind of misleading because the game doesn't end at 60 minutes. If you go over, you can still finish the game.
Which I appreciate because these are just a one-time playthrough kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't win technically.
Yeah.
We didn't win.
No.
And it's age 14 and up. I think that's probably right. I will say, I'll caveat it with saying, have someone with good eyesight.
Yeah, you get too old, you out.
Yeah, so we'll get more into that when we talk about gameplay.
So let's talk about quality of pieces. So you're looking at a house. You've got the roof. You're actually looking in. This is really nice.
Yeah, it's good quality. I mean, it's solid, and the cards they're cardboard slides that you slide in there. There's actual cards too, but they're all decent quality.
How's the card quality?
Card quality, it's not linen finish, it's smooth, but you're not going to play through this one time, so it doesn't need to be super fancy.
No. I mean, so overall for quality of pieces,
given the box, I'll probably give it a 7. I think this is a really sturdy box. It's designed for you to play, multiple different scenarios in it, and it's going to hold up well. It's not, I don't know if it's super thick cardboard.
There's some plastic down.
There's a little bit of plastic in it, yeah. So it's going to endure.
Now, I will say, Lazy Susan, a must.
Yeah, it was super useful in this. I would say that you probably want to stack it so that it's eye height. We didn't do that, and we had to keep straining and looking down. We probably should have put some games underneath it to have it up where we could actually look at it.
Listen, I feel really old playing this game, and I'm not even that old, guys. All right, so, what did you give it for?
I said 7.
I agree with that. I'm fine with that. So then let's talk about theme. Really good theme.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a mystery house, and you're trying to look in, trying to get in, trying to find other stuff. It's very haunty, spooky. Like, this is a really...
Well, I think it played well for this scenario. I'm not sure it's going to play well for all the scenarios, because there's one that's in Western. There's one that's in, like, a futuristic space, I think. And I'm, like, thinking, okay, this building does not really hold up well for that. It does very well for a haunted house, though.
I can say Western. I mean, it's a brick outside.
Yeah.
So depending on what the...
What's the other... You got 2... There's 2 that come in the main game.
So we have Family Portrait,
That's the haunted house one that we did.
Okay. Lords of the Labyrinth. That works. A fantastic adventure.
So it's really
edge
just
of an enchanted world. You enter a
futuristic
tricky maze full of challenges. So it's a tricky maze.
Yeah, so it's really just a futuristic one that doesn't necessarily fit this mold as well. But it's still, I mean, it functions as far as it's going to have dividers. Basically, you're sliding these things in to become the walls and the doors and such.
Yeah, and as you unlock doors, they obviously get removed so you can see more of the different rooms. Mm-hmm. So give it a score for theme, though.
I mean, it was effective at being a haunted house. I will probably thematically give this an 8. I think it does a nice job.
I agree with that. It got you into the feel. It really did feel like not a murder mystery, but it did feel like a mystery. It did feel like you were trying to find things out. There were clues along the way.
Actually, I may go ahead and give it an 8.5 because of the app. This is app driven, so if you don't like app games, that's just a warning.
This one's out.
But it does have a nice, creepy music, and
Yes.
there was a few times where they had some creepy children laughing and different
It
things
was
that
creepy
added
children.
added to the theme. So I think an 8.5 is where I'm at.
I agree. All right, so then let's talk about Rulebook.
So
you read the rules.
Yeah, well, the rule book is super short. It's all
it needed to be.
Yeah, it really didn't take a whole lot. It basically tells you how to set up the game board without looking at the pieces closely when you're putting them in, and then directs you to the app, which guides you through the rest of it. There's very minimal information in here. The one thing that I think was lacking was it warned you that you get penalty time docked if you looked in and you tried to identify something and you didn't see it in the list of items in the app. But what it didn't warn you is if you tried to use an item in a location that it wasn't appropriate for, or in some cases you had multiple keys in this. I don't want to spoil this for you, so I don't want to give you away any too much. But if you used the wrong key on the wrong door, it gave you a penalty. And I didn't.
Yeah, there were several times I was like, well, why won't this work? Because there's one thing that's talking about reaching for an object. And it's like, well, this would reach for an object. No, it was obviously the wrong thing. I didn't know that.
It penalizes you.
And then there was
it's like a 30-second penalty, too. It's a pretty heavy penalty.
It's a pretty heavy penalty. And it's like, well, I mean, it was like, and then the one thing they did use to do the reaching thing, I wouldn't have come up with that.
So
I mean,
but
yeah.
I mean, I think the rules. First of all, there were some typos. They weren't bad, but there were some. I think there were some translation issues in the app itself. Yeah. We had some spelling differences between things. But all in all, it was pretty effective rulebook. I'll give it a 7.5. It was pretty decent.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about gameplay. All right. So guys, a flashlight is required for this game. Me and Randy were both using our phones with our little light, trying to see stuff. Okay.
Well, to be fair, our room is pretty dimly lit in this area. We did turn the main light on.
Listen, because you need a flashlight. All right. So, and then the other piece of it was, so get your flashlight and start looking, and like you're gonna have to do everything you see.
Yeah,
because you don't realize certain things are a clue. And then the other thing is look what we finally got going, because for a long time we were kind of stuck. But you kind of have to look, because there are some walls that. Okay, so like B1 blocks B2, but if you shift it some, you could see B2. So it's like, okay, so you gotta be able to explore, like you do. Yeah,
you have to look at all angles. It's not just straightforward in front of you.
Yes.
And the other thing is some of the clues are very cryptic. This is we are veterans at doing escape rooms. We do them a lot.
This was a different
level. Was a different thought patterns, and I don't know that I agree. Some of the different solutions it seemed a stretch to me. Some of them were pretty good. I think some of them were really good in this, but some of them it felt like the combinations that they wanted you to come up with, there was no logical reason.
Well, I mean, and honestly, I had to use some of that strategy, because there was one thing that I never would have taken it to the next thing, but I was like, you need a 3-digit code. There's 3 of these things. Maybe this will work, and there was no real.
There was nothing to tie them.
Yes. Yeah. And even then, it was like, I don't want to give things away, but there were some difficulties with some of these leaps and jumps, and some of them didn't necessarily, so it's almost like you knew you were going to make mistakes. You knew you were going to have to use a hint. And those were time costly. Well,
I don't think the hints costed you penalty. It's just that the wrong entries cost you penalties. We lost a lot on the doors with trying various keys that we had accumulated.
Well, but you had no idea which
right.
One. And and listen, we're blind, okay? So like you see these, both of us glasses, like this is not good for us. Like we were like, what is there finally? And I can't, with my little flashlight. I wish it was a little bit bigger. I wish this was like
if this were the scale larger, I think it would have been better, because that was the hardest part of it. And the thing is, there's so many of these type of games now out there where you don't have to search. I like the aspect that you had to search.
I like the searching.
But it was so difficult to see because some of these you're looking at the interior. Once you remove the exterior walls, you're looking all the way into the center of this, and the range of distance and the size of it.
And like some of them were numbers, right? But you couldn't see what the numbers were from that far up because we blind. So that that was a little frustrating to me because it's like, well, I don't know what that number is.
Yeah.
And so, and even with the aspect, and that maybe gave some of the realism, but it was just like this, I wish, make this twice as big and call it a day. And some of the stuff you couldn't see, like you had to look at all angles. You had to like tilt it up, tilt it down to see the whole time.
Yeah.
And, and that got a little frustrating at some points. So set your size up, get a Lazy Susan, marched up, eye level, get a flashlight, go for it. But we kind of talked some negative about it. I want to talk about the positive of it because this was one of the better mystery games I think we have played that's set up like that scenario based, right? Because you've got your Mysterium, which is top notch, but this brings a lot to like them, and I think it's so frustrating. Those negative things is because this could have been so good. Yeah.
No, I mean the thing is this. As far as escape room in a box type thing, this has delivered it better than any of the other ones.
Exactly.
That have been out there.
That's what
it's the execution of it that was the problem because it being so small and the consideration of my eyes are not good at all. If my phone had an app that let me enlarge from a distance, like there might be one, I just don't know.
You could probably do. Well,
you'd have to light it and
so we should have had a flashlight and the camera,
But yeah, I mean, I guess you could take pictures of them, but that's going to slow you down. And this is all about speed. And so, I mean, I think this was, it's kind of odd. Usually the first game that you play of something is always dumbed down to make it entry level. Now, I did see there was supposedly a tutorial, but I didn't have any cards for a tutorial in the box.
Dude, this was legit.
It jumped you right into the deep end of the pool.
So we were at negative 73 minutes.
No. That was 73 minutes in total. It was 60 minutes, and then we were negative 12 on top of there.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah. We were over the time by just like 12, 13 minutes.
Okay, I didn't.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay, I thought it was that bad because I was like, because we just.
No, as soon as you hit 60, it starts taking negative.
Okay, well, again, guys, we didn't do good.
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tough one. Now, I think part of the length of the game is just because of the fact that there's a lot of trying to look and trying to angle and turn it and everything. So some of the execution of this is the time is being burned just by trying to turn it. There's not that many puzzles in it. I mean, if you look at some of the other like Exit or any of those other games, there's probably more puzzles in those than there is in this because they considered the amount of administration you're going to have of just turning. And
but the thing is like just being able to see. I mean, I like the searching aspect because there are a couple of times where we missed something and because we didn't search well enough, and I thought that added a good element.
It's much more reminiscent of what you would find in an escape room. So.
Right. So in that aspect of it, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
But the fact is everything is useful in this game. Just when you look through it, look for what you see, and if you see an item, make sure it's in the list. If it is, if you see it from that spot, make sure you check it from that spot. Because that's the thing, they list all of the items plus some on every one, and if you
Well, I tell you what, it was actually, the other thing is there were so many choices, it was like, which one? Searching for it, like that was kind of...
Well, there was a few that was like, is that what this is? I can't tell. And, we lost a few times on trying to enter something we thought looked like one thing, but it really was something else.
Yeah, I agree. But let's give it a score.
I like the design of it. I like the idea of it. I think there's a little flaws in the execution of it. The other
I think the only really execution is the size issue.
Well, I think the size issue, and I think the penalties on trying an item when it doesn't work. I mean, if you're in escape room and you try to code in something, it's not going to penalize you for trying the code and it's not the right code. But here, if you put the code in incorrectly, it penalized you.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a little
yeah.
heavy on the penalties, I think. The other thing is you're storing a pretty decent sized game for what is going to be 3 or 4 uses, because right now, as of this moment, there's only 4 total games.
Well, I mean, I assume that they would come out with new
Well, I'm
ones,
hoping,
right?
but if the game didn't go over well, I'm not sure how well this sold. It may or may not. There's 4 out now, and maybe only 4. You don't know.
Well, I mean, because here's the thing. I could see a lot of people enjoying this. I really could.
We enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it, right? We did enjoy it. Like I really think, our families. It's holiday time. Families coming around, and I would love to see Tristan, Abby, Alec, all of that. They would have so much fun with this. And I think about that. So yeah, it's a one-time use for yourself, but I see this being spread amongst a group of friends and everyone taking turns with this game. And every time something new comes out, being like, all right, who gets it first? No, but I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Would you give this score?
I'm gonna probably give it a 7.5. Is where I'm at. I think it could have been a 9 or 10 contender if they had fixed some of the flaws, but it would have taken up more space too. So it's kind of a catch-22 on that one. Maybe if I find an app that allows me to enlarge what I'm seeing through the phone, that might help. But yeah,
it feels so old. You feel so old, and you're like, I just can't see, And the thing is like, guys, I'm 32. I'm not that old. Like, that's very frustrating.
Yeah. I am old.
Yeah. So, I agree with you with a 7.5. If I didn't have to straighten so much, I probably would have given a higher score. Mm-hmm. And they should recommend flashlights.
They should, and they should work on the penalties. I think the penalties were a bit harsh.
Yeah. But other than that, this was fun. I had fun. I had fun doing this with you. I want to do the other ones with you. There's certain people I wouldn't want to play this with. Only because their eyesight's worse than me.
Uh-huh. Is that a duck?
No, that's not a duck. No. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a blast today, and hopefully we'll catch you guys again later. Bye.
Bye.